and welcome to the best of Bike Shows UK with me, Steve Berry. Now, over the last 10 episodes, we've travelled from Stafford to Knebworth, Cheshire to Peterborough, checking out the most interesting bikes and meeting the people behind them. From 2 wheels to 3 wheels to 4 wheels, from Harleys to Kawasaki's, stunt riders to road races, the series has been jam-packed full of fun frolics and fast bikes. And we've loved every minute of it. But we couldn't fit it all into our best of show, so here are the bestest of the best bits. And where better to start than at Knebworth House? It was the place to find the finest classic bikes in Britain. Now, the judges are currently trying to decide which is the best Norton, and that was a prize that went to this absolutely gorgeous and completely original Commando.
It's a 1978 Mark III Commando, and I think it was probably one of the last ones ever built. I've got a suspicion it was built by the receivers after the factory closed, but I haven't been able to check the numbers yet to find out.
So it now goes forward to the best in show. How do you think it might do there?
Well, I don't know. I've got a sneaking suspicion that it might do well because if it's the same judge who judged the Norton category, he actually admitted that he's got one of these himself. So we might be in with a shout.
The bike's a 1967 G15 CS, 750 Norton engine in a AMC matchless frame, which they call hybrid, and it was produced at the later end of production for AMC. And I think in that year there was only a couple of bikes that were being produced by AMC, and that was one of them. And they're certainly unique as far as the Atlas engine, I'm told, in the Norton frame is very vibratory. But for some reason in the AMC frame, I think it loses its vibes, and it's quite a handleable, placid engine. So if anyone wants a hybrid, I suggest they go out and look for them. They are around.
It's not all just 2-wheel delights at these extravaganzas, there's plenty to entertain the kiddies too. And if you wanted something that was definitely a case of do not do this at home, the stunt riding certainly filled that criteria at the Welsh National Motorcycle Show and at the BMF show in Peterborough. Take a look at these spectacular displays. Here's flying Ryan Harris, just getting warmed up there. And of course, who could forget the old human ramp trick? Bit of freestyling from Ryan, a top supercross competitor and enduro and motocross rider when he's not doing this sort of thing at shows all over the country. A wheelie? It's a bit too easy, isn't it?
It's great here performing to motorcyclists because...
Like a lot of stunt riders, Ryan realises that he's actually in show business, and there was a bit of panto in the middle of the arena. Didn't that little guy used to be on Crackerjack? And when it comes to fantastic finales, you can't beat that old favourite jumping through a hoop of fire. Yes, it's an oldie, but it's still a goodie. Would you do it? I know I certainly wouldn't, but to Flying Ryan, it's all in an afternoon's work. But Ryan had better watch out, as another much younger Ryan is right behind him at the bottom of the ramp, ready to follow in his tyre tracks. Let's meet this young man.
I ride for over the top stunt team. We ride motorcycles, as you can see. We do quite daring stunts. We do a lot of tight stuff that the audience will be quite impressed by. At the end of the day, we try and make sure the audience are satisfied.
Ryan, at the age he is, he's got a lot less fear than myself. He's obviously the junior member of the team. It's now 11:15 and the team is all looking at me thinking I'm a lazy burger because then they're putting the track out, putting all the ramps out, and I'm sat here talking to the cameras. Hey, get us at anything about putting the track out, don't we, eh?
We don't like putting the arena up.
No, we don't mind putting it up, but if we can get somebody to do it for us, that's business, son.
What are they doing?
Come on, get the kit out. Show business.
To get over my nerves, because usually I get quite nervous, I kind of like, talk to Andy about it and like say that I'm a bit nervous and all that, and he says, I try your hardest, and if you don't do what I ask you to do, then it doesn't matter. And that's really how I calm my nerves. The tricks are not, wow, they're easy for like Christian and all that, but they're quite challenging for me, because if I don't clear it, I know I'm going to be in trouble. So I've got to get the biggest run up as I can. So it'll be quite a long jump today, because the run up, it's quite a big run up, so yeah. Oh, I'm on. I got to go now.
Well, I don't know why he was so nervous. He made it look easy. That boy has got real talent. The shows cater for all ages, and you're guaranteed a great day out. Another highlight of the show was the Wall of Death at Knebworth. It might have got you all in a spin, but it was worth watching just for the sheer wow factor.
The Wall of Death started in 1929 in Great Britain. It's been travelling here every year since then. It's now 2004, so we've been going over 70 years. We have a drum which is 20 foot high and 40 feet in diameter, and we ride motorbikes along these perpendicular walls. So the bikes are box standard machines. This machine that I'm sitting on here is a 1922 Indian Scout. This was built for the American police force, and we've used them on the Wall of Death since 1929. The riders are your normal, common old box garden lads and girls that have taken an interest in our way of lifestyle.
Back to the bikes. Throughout the series, we've seen bikes of all different shapes and sizes. If the two-wheel riding leaves you a bit shaky and you fancy something a bit more stabilised, then take a look at these trikes we found at the Bothwell show. But our three wheels triple the fun. The trikes are a big part of the Welsh show, and they're given a separate hall all to themselves for those who like it 3 up. Now the trikes here take all kinds of different forms. Some are bike based and some are car based. Some are light, agile and sporty, and some are bigger than family cars. But there's one here that was quite exceptional, and I'm not just talking about this one here, which is based on the back end of a Reliant. I'm talking about something that came all the way from Cardiff. It used to be a Hayabusa. It's not a bike and it's not a trike. So what is it?
Yeah, it's Hayabusa. Hayabusa, we just decided to quad one. See if you can see what it'd go like. Just for a change. At the moment it's pretty good, but steering got to be sorted. Just it's too positive. So you got to build some negative camber into it to make it run a bit better. At the moment we've taken it about 120. It should do about 180. Nothing's been done to the engine, just bog standard, straight from the shop. It's the same drive as on our trikes. It's exactly the same chain drive. We just, with disc brakes all round, just see what it goes like. It should stop as well.
We also went along to the Stafford Classic Bike Auction. There were loads of bikes and parts to bid for. Like all auctions, it threw up a few surprises. Lot 338 is a completely dismantled 1954 Vincent Black Shadow with no documentation and bits missing.
I got a call into the office. Chap on the phone had a bike in his shed, not too sure what it was worth, quite local to me, so I popped down to see him. It was the son of the original owner, but they really had very little idea as to what its potential value was. I turned up on the doorstep, he showed me into the house, said, well, I think it could be worth maybe 500 quid, 1,000 quid, and well, boy, did I have some news for him. It turned out to be a Vincent Black Shadow, which, well, I know needs no introduction, a thoroughbred bike and a highly sought after machine. The difference is that this one is completely dismantled, in bits, and has caused a bit of a storm. I wouldn't be surprised if it sold for £8,000. I don't know that I'd necessarily be surprised if it sold for £10,000. But at the moment, your guess is as good as mine.
And we'll find out how they get on later in the show. That's all for part 1. Join me for part 2 when we'll be checking out the race action at Oulton Park, and we'll find out how much that Vincent Black Shadow fetched at auction. Welcome back to the best of Bike Shows UK. Back at the Bothwell show, there was an array of custom bikes to drool over. With their to-die-for paint schemes and polished metal, these artistic creations were very popular with the thousands of bikers who've made it all the way down to the beautiful Wye Valley. Some machines don't look like they're ridden at all, but this VMAX certainly was.
I bought it new 5 years ago, and it's gradually evolved into this. Well, I started off, as soon as I took it home, I took the exhaust off, and then it's just gone from there, and I just hate buying parts off the shelf. So most of the stuff on here, I design it and I can draw things, and then I know a group of friendly engineers who make all the parts that I want, which is quite handy. So the only thing left that's standard is the frame and a few of the electrical bits and pieces. It's got TL1000 forks, extended by 4 inches, re-valve, re-sprung. The yokes I've had made, the little fairings off a Gilera DNA moped, modified to fit. Obviously I've changed all the gauges, I've had the grips made. If we move on to the engine, it's 1560cc, Carrillo rods, gas flowed heads, bigger valves. It's got a Magna Charger supercharger on it that I bought from the States. It's supposed to bolt straight on, but it doesn't. So basically I had to make the one-piece manifold again because it was the wrong angles to go onto the heads, and there was no cutouts for the cam chain tunnels. It runs a 4-barrel Holly carb, and then I've got nitrous oxide injection on top. What else have I done now? The back end is obviously completely different to standard. We've got a 9.5-inch rim made to my own design. I designed the swinging arm and the exhaust myself, and they were made by a company called Steelheart. And that's an awful lot of work on these, being shaft drive. I had to put 2 extra UJs into the swinging arm to bring the drive shaft out, so I could put the big back wheel in. Every night when I go to bed, I just think of things and think, yeah, I think I'll do that next and do this, and it's just evolving all the time, really. Lots of people say to me, well, it looks like it's never been on the road, but it's done 18,000 miles. I went to Spain on it last year, I went to Belgium on it last year, and I ride it all the time. People think because it's so clean that it's never ridden, but it's always ridden.
When it comes to customising, getting the paint job right is all important. How about this bike, devoted to the anarchic Sex Pistols?
Well, I used to be a punk rocker, you know, and it's always been in my blood. Love the pictures, the safety pins. It's come from there, really, you know. I got the right bike, had a bit of cash, found the right artist. It's all come together.
But if punk doesn't float your boat, then there's always the good old American way.
Well, it's a standard bike originally, and a chap ordered it from brand new, and he spent about £10,000 on extras with a big bore conversion, lots of extra chrome. And he went to pick the bike up, and his wife wouldn't let him have it. So I don't know if there's conflict in the marriage or whatever, but the dealership was stuck with a bike they wanted to get rid of. And I happened to go in on this day and saw it, traded in my old Harley, and took hold of this bike for a snap. And I've spent a lot more on it since, and I love it. I call her Christine, it's a nickname for her, and I'm really chuffed with her.
On a baking hot day in May, we were at the British Superbike meeting at Alton Park in Cheshire, giving you exclusive access to what went on behind the scenes. There was plenty of action both on and off the track, and James, the snapper, showed us the best places to catch the action.
Just on the exit of Druids, as you see, the bikes will get the front wheel off the ground just as they come over the crest under acceleration, and they've got to. The riders have to work quite hard to get the bikes back online, keep them in control. So it's quite a dramatic shot out of here. A number of times that people say, "Oh, you've got the best job in the world." Well, on a day like today, we probably have. But when it's siling down with rain and you've got to stand there and it's cold, miserable and horrible, and you've still got to be out there, then obviously it's not quite so much fun. I think we'll just have a walk up to the inside of Lodge, get a completely different shot. Lodge Corner on race day is sort of traditionally one of the last ditch attempt passing places. It's sort of the last passing place before they go onto the start-finish straight. At that point there's a potential for crashes and the crashes are often the shots that get used. I guess you could say it started off as a hobby that got too expensive. Very, very few circuits that are as picturesque as this.
But on race weekend, it's not all photography. There are plenty of other jobs that need doing. And ladies out there, there's something for you too.
Right, hello there, my name's Tina. I'm technical coordinator to make sure we've got all the scrutineering guides in place for race day. So I'm just walking down there now. Across the country we've got around 50 scrutineers, so it's my responsibility to make sure we've got enough scrutineers at each event and basically just make sure that the meeting goes really steadily as the meeting goes on and that we've got people where they need to be, when they need to be there. Everything's set up for the day now. We've got the scales out there. Basically when the bikes come in from a race, they'll actually be weighed to make sure that they're within the guidelines for weighing. Any homologation checks that are carried out will actually be done in here, and there's the guys with the calipers and everything else all ready to get that sorted out. Got the ladies in the paddock office that are actually got all the paperwork, the computer set up, so we can do any reporting we need to up to the race control centre.
And who better to explain it than the woman in charge of the paperwork for every bike in every race?
Each rider has his own record card which follows him right through the series. And on the record card, all the details, such as when the bike has been scrutineered by one of the technical officials. Clothing and helmet of the rider are also checked and recorded.
Now we check the helmet to see that it's securely fastened and there's no damages on. And then he also has an ACU sticker on, which he must have on for racing.
So there you go. Anybody not quite up to the standard of John Reynolds et al. Can at least take part on a race weekend. So what are you waiting for? We've seen some beautifully restored classic bikes in the series, but what do you think of these 70s speedsters? Now, a classic bike isn't necessarily British or very old. Just look at this stunning 1979 Ducati 900.
This bike I've owned from new since about 1979, so I've had it quite a long time. And first 2 years we had it, it was our only means of transport. So through the summer, through the winters, I mean that was it, that's what we used. So 24, 25 years later it's still with us. And every year they have a great classic bike show here every year in Knebworth, so I've been coming for the last 2 or 3 years. It's the first time I've actually brought this to this show. And when I bought it back in 79, 80, it was a performance bike, and I mean the Japanese bikes really did struggle, despite what the magazines might say, they did struggle to keep up with it. It could out-handle them, it could out-brake them, in many cases outperform them acceleration. But if you compare it to a modern bike, it's slow steering, it's a bit wheezy in getting up to the top end, even though it's pretty good nick, and the brakes just don't bear any comparison to a modern sports bike. Oh, it's funny, after all these years, it still gives me a kick to ride it. It's a great old Ducati from one of the early Bevels, and every day I take it out, it still gives me a grin. And despite the fact it's old and it doesn't perform like the modern bikes do, it's not even as civilised as the modern bikes, it's still a great ride and it's still very enjoyable to ride.
It's a 1972 H2. It's an American import, and it got best H2 in the club last year. I'm hoping to defend that title next month. I've had this bike about 2 years and I've totally restored it, although when I bought it, it was in pretty original state. Just needed a bit of TLC, bring it back to spec, and I took it all the bits and set about doing it. Performance is okay. I mean, it's a bit more thirsty than a modern bike, purely because that's the way it was designed. But at low speed, it tends to want to surge a bit. It likes the open road and it likes to be whacked open,
Back to the Stafford Classic Bike Show, where there were plenty of stands for customers to feast their eyes upon. But here was a classic for your head. One man who never misses Stafford is classic bike enthusiast Dave Biderman. He has a company who make classic crash helmets in a variety of styles.
We manufacture everything in-house, all the shells, painting, all the leather work, all the testing gets done out. We come here and we sell it, meet some very nice people and have a great time. If you pick up what we do and you pick up one of the helmets and you pick up all the leather line and you look at it all and there's a particular feel about the way we make stuff. The way RO makes stuff's really nice as well. You know, they make really nice stuff, but we're in a sort of a niche market with things. We only make a specific number of helmets a year. You know, we sort of, if someone wants a special helmet, special design, we just do that as part of the course and the day. You know, it's not, we just do it. If someone wants to have a pool helmet with numbers on the side, we do that, and a different colour, we do that. You know, and we don't make thousands and thousands and thousands of helmets. We make a specific number of helmets, which, you know, so it's people treat it as a bit of a treat having one, really. Some of it's led by ourselves, some things that we do, or we just look at the history of things, and then some of it's led by different countries, because we sell in Japan, all over Europe, Scandinavia, sell everywhere in the sort of developing countries of the world. So where there's a particular, you know, be in Scandinavia, you'll sell a lot of matte black helmets, and then, you know, in the UK you might get quite a lot of old classic Hailwood helmets we'll sell, and we do flame designs, and we do stuff with brown leather, more traditional, and so it's yeah, it's led by some of the stuff we do ourselves, some is led by other people. You know, like we might start doing some pinstriping work for the American market at the moment, and doing some metal flake work, you know, for the 70s things.
Well, our time is nearly up, but before I go, let's find out what price that Vincent Black Shadow went for in the end.
The sensation of the show was our Vincent NT chest, lot 338, the 1954 Vincent Black Shadow. It had been estimated at between £6,000 and £8,000, and what do you think it sold for? A whopping £13,800.
So anyone with an old Vincent lying around in bits that they're not quite sure what to do with, get yourself along to the nearest bike auction. You never know how much it'll go for. That's it for now. Join us next time for more Best of Bike Shows UK.